Good afternoon, everybody. Tom Happy here, CEO and founder of True Leads. I hope everybody's well. We're in our new office today, but there's a bit of background noise with some builders and things, so ignore that. But today I've got an amazing guest in Jane Dotsenko, who I previously worked with at Trustwave, and now she's Senior Product Marketing Manager at Salesforce. Jane's got 10 plus years in marketing in senior positions. And now is leading the charge at Salesforce in terms of their product marketing. So today we're going to sort of talk around Jane's experience in the marketplace and how marketing's changed, especially over the last couple of years because of COVID, in the more digital age, and what companies are looking to do to embrace that. Truly is obviously very much a part of that, and we deal with a lot of marketing VPs and marketing directors, and everyone's looking for the answer on this. So I'm hoping Jane can shed some light on best practices here. So welcome, Jane. Welcome to True Leads Live. I hope you're well.
Thank you, Tom. It's my pleasure to be here today. And yes, indeed, some years in marketing, some good experiences. I'm looking forward to share. I also am responsible for international scaling of our content and campaigns for Marketing Cloud and Commerce Cloud here at Salesforce. So I work day in and day out looking at how we can help marketeers do better and commerce professionals as well, who oftentimes in B2C brands sit under marketing organizations. So lots of goodness to share today. Thank you.
Amazing. So in terms of a little bit about, I guess, your background and obviously what you're doing before you joined Salesforce, if you get an overview of that and how you got into marketing to begin with.
Yeah, sure. I've studied communications and media in the university, and then I sort of started off there. I do have a passion for technology, so I started in the hardware business, working for a CCTV manufacturer, Vigilon, and then moved on to more SaaS and sort of cloud technologies, if you like. Always been B2B, always been pan-European, EMEA, international. So I have this passion for scaling and making sure that whatever you do, it can be automated, templatized, and can be used across the board, so that there is an efficiency for the business and everything I do. So I guess that led me to this role at Salesforce, where I'm responsible for scaling the programs and content internationally for Marketing Commerce Cloud.
Oh, amazing. And so I guess the big question really, and what this sort of topic is about really, is just how things are changing and evolving rapidly. And I think we spoke a few weeks ago, didn't we, around this, and you said even, at Salesforce, it's constantly pivoting and changing the messaging and changing the content because the world's moving so fast, right? So I guess, that was the same when we worked together before, in terms of the messaging and the products and the way to market. So what have you seen shift over the last couple of years? What are the major trends that you've seen?
Well, like everybody, we had to pivot from offline events that were a big driver for our marketing pipe and ACV, and had to pivot into the digital world as a B2B company, which we had done partly, but now that everything's gone online, it's the all digital customer now, and across B2B and B2C, wherever you sit. And also our research we do with the marketeers, marketing leaders, our state of marketing has shown the same. It's that 89% of marketeers said that their channel mix is either changing or changed already. So you can think 9 out of 10 marketers will completely revamp their strategies, or will have done that already through the pandemic, just to meet the customer expectations of speed, agility, the level of service, the level of integration of all the touch points of the brand. It's not a small feast, but we're definitely in a very new environment for the marketers.
And I guess you touched on some of there in terms of those different touch points, right? And I think that's something we're trying to educate our clients on as well, in terms of, obviously they want things to happen instantly, but it's about that whole engagement, the whole journey with the brand or with the product or your company. It's very rarely going to happen straight away. So it's about building that up over time, right? And using the right content and messaging to engage with your Still there?
Tom?
Still there? Hello?
Yeah, yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. I think it just cut out a bit there. So I was just saying, sort of how important is this sort of that constant engagement and the right content over sort of a long period to sort of nurture your prospects through that journey rather than the sort of direct approach, which a lot of our customers seem to want to take.
Yeah, Tom, and you've nailed it here because it's all about the moments that matter. And now that the B2B and B2C are merging, even the B2B customers expect every moment, every touch that they get from your brand to be meaningful, to be relevant, to be personalized, because you need to show them that you know them and you know their pain points, and you can help them be better and do better. So it's more important than ever to have integrated systems, to think long term. And as you said, there are no quick fixes really. It's all about the long term thinking of how do I build trust, how do I build relationships, and how do I design those moments from inside out with my business, so that my customers keep coming back to me, because we also know that loyalty is something that pays off. If you drive loyalty, the returning customer is always your best ROI.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess with that as well, in terms of what you're doing at Salesforce, in terms of that, obviously you've got a big brand, and obviously I'd imagine they've got some really great processes and products and things that do that. But I think the biggest challenge is trying to integrate that to the wider team, right? And obviously you've got these ideas. You start as you speak to a lot of VPs and marketing. They've got these great ideas, but I guess my question is, how do you get the rest of the team, the sales team, the marketing team, involved with that process and on board with it? Because I think if we find that the more you can do that, the more everybody's on the same page, the better it works. Otherwise, you've got little silos of people doing bits of this. But if you can bring everyone together, you're going to get much better results, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And as any big organization, we've been through acquisitions. I've come through data arm acquisition myself. We do have silos, and especially with people working from home now and transitioning to that hybrid model, it's not always that we can all get into the boardroom on a day and just throw things onto the whiteboard and make a decision. So it's very, very important that we are data led in our decisions. And I even have an example of one of our customers who were looking to create a data-led culture in their marketing. So they would start the mornings with the analytics to Slack integration, where the reports, the charts, and the graphs would get pushed into Slack channel where all the marketing would sit, and then they would get on a call. They would look at the charts and the graphs, and that would be a starting point, like sort of where we are at today. And I think it's a great way to look at the data, to use data to empower the teams, because the data in itself always requires thinking. It requires, applying what is going on in the wider market, in the wider economy. So you need people looking at it, but at the same time, it stops being like whatever the data shows, whether the numbers are down or your conversion rates aren't great, or your top of the funnel is exhausted and you need to do some awareness. All those things stop being a VP's opinion or somebody's opinion, and it stops being personal, because you have it on a chart and you say, well, right, this is where we're at, where we are. How do we get from where we are to where we need to be in terms of the metrics? And I do encourage teams to use the data in a way, and it doesn't have to be huge. You can just start with like a weekly report and a couple of metrics that matter to you, and really looking at what's going on inside your business, and then breaking the silos. But it does require that you have data flowing in and out of departments, as you said, touch points. Like, do you have sales data? Do you have service data as well to look at? Because maybe if somebody has an open ticket, they don't want a campaign email coming in to buy more.
Yeah.
Or if you know that somebody's filed in a return, you want to wait until that return is processed before you send a feedback request, because then you'll probably get a more accurate, more adequate response to that. So just tweaking those communications so that the interactions with your brand just offer more delight to your customers. But that requires integrated systems and long-term thinking, sort of getting everybody behind the customer success, the single customer view in your organization.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think with all this, automation and tools, and there's never been a better, time in history with all the information you've got, right? So, as a salesperson myself, when I first started, didn't have any of that. It's literally a mobile phone, and you just get on with it. But now you've got so much data at your hands in terms of intent data and LinkedIn and everything there, but it can create a lot of noise. So unless you're actually going to bring that together and make sense of it, it's sort of a wasted resource, really, right? And I guess that's where a lot of our customers probably struggle, where they've bought into all these tools, they've got all these processes in place, but they're not really measuring the success of it too well. So that's where we're sort of stepping in to help them put a process behind it, right? So I guess once you've got, you figured out your data, you sort of work out where those sort of bottlenecks are in terms of your lead, your conversion rate, and things like that. What was your strategy when you started these roles as a senior marketing leader to get people to take action on these areas?
Well, I think getting together and expressing your point of view of what the customer success or the great customer experience and customer success looks like for you. At Salesforce, customer success is one of our 5 key pillars. We're laser focused on what drives our customers. And going back to your earlier question, that is why we pivot our messaging positioning all the time, because we see that it's different things every now and again that make our customers successful. So we need to follow suit and just make sure that we're relevant. So getting the marketing and sales departments, to sit together and agree on goals and what they're trying to achieve. And it doesn't have to be an overarching, alignment. It can be just a pilot. I think it's really good to start nimble, to start with small things, measuring a couple of metrics. DMA, for example, have released a great report last year saying that a lot of the marketing metrics, I think it was about 60%, were vanity metrics. They wouldn't link to any business outcomes. So making sure that when you talk about what you're measuring, you don't go into the rabbit hole. You can measure a gazillion things, and there's so much data, so many things you can analyze. But you actually focus on what matters to your business, or where you need to improve maybe, and also looking at things you're doing well already and maybe doubling down on those. So sitting down, marketing and sales, agreeing on what you're trying to achieve, even if it's just a pilot, maybe like a few months or so, and tackling one thing at a time and learning to talk to each other, talk the same language. Because what you and I, Tom, know, we've sat in those meetings, is that the point of view is slightly different on what success looks like for marketing and for sales. And also their point of view of the customer success and customer experience is also slightly different, maybe. So it's always good for marketing to hear what the sales are hearing in the field and in their meetings and demos and everything that they do customer facing. And then for maybe sales, harness the vast amount of data and research the marketing sits on, and marketing gathers so many data points about what matters to the customers and how they consume content, how they want to be communicated, how what are the cycles now, etc. So how to engage them. So there's a lot of learning that both sides can do, as long as they're open to that conversation.
Yeah, no, totally agree. And I think that's obviously something we did together at Trustwave, right, in terms of one-off sort of campaigns, but mainly on sort of financial services when I was working there, and proving those work, and then we can replicate that to the wider team, right? Once you prove the success of it. And I think sometimes everybody gets caught up with the bigger picture and like the holistic view, but actually you need some shorter term wins to prove the concept works, right?
And as you said in the beginning, Tom, it's long-term thinking, but it doesn't mean that you have to go all in and revamp your entire strategy, right? You can start small, you can test and pilot, but what I do encourage everybody to do is to have the North Star, like your customer success, customer experience should be at the heart of everything you do, because then it's easier to bring people behind it, because everybody cares about the customer. If your customer isn't successful, then you're probably not something doing wrong.
Yeah. No, completely agree. In terms of I guess my next question really is, obviously, you've got that strategy in mind, and a lot of the companies we work with now have got lots of different tools that they're working with. I guess what do you see the importance of sort of marketing automation these days, and how do people best adopt automation strategies in the business? Because sometimes, like you said, if it's done right, it can work really well. If not, it can create a lot of noise, a lot of sort of a headache in terms of implementing and getting people to use it correctly. But if you can actually step back and put a proper process behind it in place, then you actually start getting some really decent results and benefiting from the time-saving abilities of automation platforms. So what's your view around that?
It's a really, really good question, especially given the economic climate we're entering right now, because what we are hearing from the customers since a few months now is that they're trying to do more with less, between grant resignation, really all the challenges we're facing, and some of the economic metrics going down. They're looking how they can enhance what they're doing already, not necessarily scaling out, but figuring out how the existing people they have on the teams can do better work, more work, but uh, and using automation to exactly achieve that. So achieving efficiencies through automation, automated data collection, unification, analysis, and then, as I said, remember I gave this example of our client who pushes the analytics report, intelligence report into Slack automatically, and then everybody gets a ping on Slack, and those sort of tools on their own wouldn't help, but if they become part of your culture and part of your process of how you operate, that operational excellence is achieved through efficiency and not just throwing more platforms and more bodies on the ground, on the floor. And another thing is choosing the partner that can adjust and scale with you. And that's why Salesforce has this power of the platform, because we have solutions for different departments. They all talk to each other. The data flows freely. You can analyze, you can integrate, and that integration saves you time and effort. Whereas if your systems are siloed, your data sits on all the different platforms, and then you can't integrate easily, then aggregating and creating the insights for the teams to act upon to serve the customers better become a job in itself.
Yeah,
And this is not what I think is appropriate in 2022. So yeah, strategy is great, but make sure you get people behind it and your systems actually support long-term thinking and sort of that efficiency, but also being able to scale as you
yeah,
need to.
yeah. I think that's it. With behind every, Salesforce is a great example. Obviously, really powerful, software and range of products, but there's also people and processes behind that, right? And the same as every tool we use here every day that we use. Yes, the automation and the technology is brilliant, but unless you've got those people behind it to help and make it work, it's a wasted investment, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely. And there's no quick fix. I think we talked about it as well 2 weeks ago, Tom, is that if somebody knew there's a quick fix to build trust quickly and convert and engage customers, then probably they would be billionaires by now. But we are humans. Essentially, humans are selling to humans through all those tools and the layers of technology. So you need to do the right thing long term and have your integrity, have your brand promise, brand experience, all that, have it together in order to achieve the goals. So unfortunately, I I can't I can't say there's a quick one, but you can definitely get things right if you do a step by step. If you do that step by step.
Yeah, yeah. And just a question just come to my head then in terms of around the sort of content as well. And I think we were reading some stats the other day where it's information overload, right? There's so much out there and it's so hard to stand out, but you need to be creating the good content to be able to back that up, right? I'm sure Salesforce are amazing at this, but how important is content in today's sort of digital world, and what is your advice to any sort of marketers out there where their content may not be that good and they need to improve things?
Well, first of all, I think it comes down to knowing your customers and knowing who are you talking to. Again, it's humans selling to humans, so your content should actually be your voice to that person and speaking to what they are experiencing in that particular industry or situation. Our state of marketing is a great resource if you want to understand what's top of mind for the marketeers. It's free to download from our
Yeah,
website.
yeah, that.
And yeah, looking at those trends, you want to be very empathetic to audiences and make your content speak and work for you when you're not practically talking to them. So I think we should get out of thinking as marketeers that content is a separate thing we do and make it part of your brand promise and brand voice, and also make it work in a more dynamic way. People with that information overload, they want quick, concise, insightful pieces of content. So if you can do 30-second, 50-second videos on LinkedIn every day, do that. Just break it down, make it more manageable. Do your podcast, do your snapshots, do your snackable videos. We do those as well on LinkedIn quite successfully. So it's just finding new formats that would suit the new pace of life, the pace of work, but also coming back to the noisiness, your trust, the trust you build, the long-term relationship, the investment you make into your customer relationships will eventually make you the trusted source of information. So your content will be consumed better, if I may use that technical word, but it will be, people will read your content, will engage with it, will even pass it on to their customers or their colleagues if they trust you. And I think it brings us back to the point of knowing your customer, having all the data together, but also investing long term in that relationship and building the trust.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I think also from a sales perspective as well, I think you know, so many of our clients, we try and advise them. The company they work for create great content. They've got webinars, they've blogs, they've white papers, all this great content, and they're not sharing it or they're not using it as part of their outreach, and they're just going for the let's have a 10-minute call, let's have a meeting, and it's like it's just not the way to do it. And I think the example I had was a lot of the deals that I've done in my career came from exactly that. It may be a white paper. Most sales guys wouldn't call that client at that point because it's not a lead, but there's obviously a level of interest there, right? So pick up the phone to those guys and have a conversation and help them rather than trying to sell to them and pitch them. And I think that's something where I guess the gap between sales and marketing, if you can get that closer together, people start getting better results. And I think that is changing. It's certainly closer than it used to be, I think. But from my experience, the more that sales can work with marketing, use the content that you guys are creating, the better everyone's results are going to be, right?
Yeah, and you're absolutely right that the teams are getting closer. Their metrics for success, the business success, are becoming more integrated. So they're realizing there's much more interdependencies, less silos, and to your point, like we've just released our marketing intelligence report, which is all about the data and how marketing teams can use their data, and what are the challenges and the goals around data. And what we did in Salesforce, we also ran an enablement session for our sales teams and BDRs to make sure that it's not just a nice PDF living somewhere. Yes, it's a top of the funnel awareness piece. A lot of marketers will download it and look through it, but we also want the stats that we deliver, and it's an impartial research. The respondents don't know they're responding to Salesforce, so it's very credible. So what we want is adoption in those conversations that the sales and BDRs are having every day. So it's something that marketing went off and created. It does serve the marketing purpose, but it also has a great potential to drive the conversations, the pipe, the ACV. And actually, if a salesperson goes into the conversation and they bring up some of the stats that were sourced impartially, they're building their own credibility as well. There's a bit of the personal brand building, if you like, for salespeople and BDRs, because they become much more credible because they present the research and they can prove their point with some data points as well. So
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of goodness in getting creative and getting out of the mindset of, oh, this is an MQL and this is the SQL, this is just a white paper, because that white paper download back then, Tom, was a meaningful moment the account that you then converted into a large deal. But you don't know that until you pick up the phone and talk to them.
Yeah.
So getting out of those, standard metrics, standardized metrics, and having a more dynamic conversation, pivoting your methods as you generate demand is really important in the all digital era.
Yeah, I think it's sort of closing the loop, because it's sort of it's in my sales guy, I could see it happening all the time, where the sales guys would sort of moan that there wasn't enough content or events or webinars. So the marketing team would create all this stuff, and then the sales guys wouldn't promote it or do anything with it, and then it just goes back in a cycle. But if you can close that gap where they actually do follow up on it and progress it and get results from it, then one, it gives you the go ahead to go and do more campaigns and spend more money on marketing activity, and two, they actually get some results from it. But so I think, like you said at the start, if sales and marketing work together on this, then it generally works, and you've got a nice cycle of the right content going out, the right results coming in, and some return on investment at the end of it, right? But there's so many companies that haven't quite closed that gap yet, which is why we're sort of here to help, right? So no, cool. Near the end now, just one last question, really. I just wanted to, reach out. Obviously, we're focused on sort of lead generation at True Leads, and we've helped a lot of customers, especially during the pandemic. And things are changing a bit now. There's more events, and it's starting to get a little bit back to normal. But I guess, what advice would you have for any companies out there that are, looking to adopt the new sort of digital age, but now with events, and that's sort of the process moving forward in terms of what you would plan to do if you were in a similar position? Still there? Oh, she's gone. Hello? Looks like we lost you, Jane. She's frozen. Cool. Well, look, I think Jane's dropped off, so I'm going to wrap everything up. But I think we've had a few questions on the chat in terms of the report, so we'll put that on there. We'll send out the recording as well, and I look forward to catching up with you guys on our next True Leads Live. So hopefully that's helpful. Speak to you all soon. Cheers. Bye.